you're at the farm right now, which I don't often see at a farm. This is amazing. Yeah, look at how beautiful that is. What a beautiful day.
Coffee is one of the key priority value chain for this government. 80% of the coffee goes through the Nairobi Coffee Exchange. Not to deal with Kenyan coffee. Let me tell you, my friend, you are losing out like big time. You gotta wake up and do something, my friend.
Yeah, be a winner. Buy some Kenyan coffee. Really
Absolutely.
enjoy it.
My name is Henry Kinyua. Um, an agricultural advisor. I've been a practitioner, in this agriculture space for quite a long time. Currently consulting and advising on crops and value chains, across board. But also I'm a coffee enthusiast. When I left university, the first crop I worked for was coffee. So I'm smallholder farmer. So I have a lot of interest and passion working with coffee farmers. So quite a good opportunity to discuss more about coffee and coffee in Kenya, more so from both the smallholder side, from the government angle, from the private sector. So the ability to look at the value chain from end to end and where the opportunity, because we are at humongous opportunities for all, in investment, in production, in even improving livelihoods. So there are opportunity across board for, on the entire value chain. Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, that's why I want to talk to you. So I got to meet you a few years back when you were digitizing value chains with Digital Green. I know you've done a whole lot of other things in your career, so we're like really excited to talk to you. And Climate Smart Coffee really is about informing US-based coffee roasters, conscious consumers with like what's actually happening at origin. Like, can you get access to data? Can you verify where your coffee's coming from? Can you learn more about the climate evolution or even the investments that countries are making? So you're the perfect person to talk to because you both understand the political side, which it does take government to invest in agriculture. So you're on the forefront of that, but you also know the private sector is the one that desires and has choices when they choose their coffee. So yeah, tell me what's going on with Kenyan coffee now. Like, we know production has gone down sort of over time, but it's having a resurgence. There's something going on. Investments are being made. It'd be interesting to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, I think, as you have said, coffee is one of the key priority value chain for this government. The president and his administration identified agriculture as one of the 5 pillars for, to drive increase in livelihood and employment. And within agriculture, he came up with about 3 pillars. Pillar number 1, increasing food security. Pillar number 2, reducing the value and volume of imports. And pillar number 3, increasing the value and volume of exports. And that is clearly where coffee lies. And coffee is important for a couple of reasons. One, coffee is grown by 33 out of the 45 counties. So nearly over 3/4 of the country grows coffee. Secondly, coffee was there as a forex earner. Coffee was there 10, 15 years ago. Kenya was exporting over 120,000 metric tons. Now come down to about 48, 51. So we were there, so we can get there very quickly. And then also, thirdly, is we already have the crop. There's various data is not fully, but we are between 160 million to maybe 200 million coffee bushes. So that are already there. So with that gives an opportunity to very quickly, the areas that you can very quickly rejig and get incomes for the farmers, forex for the country, and most importantly, get the crop producing again.
Yeah. So it's not as if there is a fixed amount of anything. Like, there is a lot of land in Kenya. There's opportunities to grow more coffee because you can grow the amount of land that cultivates coffee. You can add trees or bushes, as you're putting it. Like, you can just add more trees and grow more coffee. But there's also an opportunity to take the existing coffee bushes and make them more productive, right? And there's a way to do that in a way that's sustainable for farmers, also sustainable for the earth, right? So choosing different varietals or the practices that you have, like using inputs really healthy in a healthy way. So there's lots of ways to tackle what you're saying is increasing production and also increasing quality. So do you have a sense of how farmers are choosing to do that now? You're in Nyeri County. You're at the farm right now, which I don't often see at a farm. This is amazing. Yeah, look at how beautiful that is. What a beautiful day. Yeah, those are coffee bushes behind you, or coffee trees, right?
These are coffee bushes, and even as you can see, they already have some green cherries. some green berries.
Yep.
They haven't matured, so they're going for. So I think there are a couple of things that farmers are doing in these. Largely more adaptation based on the climate. And number one is there have been newer, more resilient varieties. Like if you look at the challenge of disease, the fungal diseases, that is coffee berry disease and leaf rust. Then you have new varieties like Ruiru 11 that is a bit more tolerant, or even in fact some of this is resistant. We have other varieties like Batiani that produces more, but also low in diseases, and also still have the best cap. Because Kenyan coffee, for those who don't know, is like it's such a full body. They like they have it's have fantastic aroma. The profile, the taste profiles is great. I mean, Kenyan coffee is second to none. Once you taste it, you just definitely will not be able to taste something else. So farmers are looking at that. And then thirdly, the issue of the climate resilience or adaptation practices, like using of the mulch, using of ensuring that there is a lot of water harvesting. Like you see this farm we are in, this you can see. I don't know if you can see there's a water pan there. It
Yeah.
is actually a dam that they have harvested water and then using that water to irrigate. So there's a lot of an interesting thing. This is happening from both the large, the medium, and also the small scale farmers. So in the small way, investing and demonstrate how that one will be to ensure that number one, coffee is able to produce well, and also is able to get the right the right quality, and then we're able to move on that. So I think there's quite a number of areas that looking at it in terms of how to continue increasing both production and productivity. Maybe the second thing that's actually happening, before I forget, is there is also introduction of coffee in the new areas. Because there are areas that were not necessarily coffee growing zone, like the west of the Rift Valley, and many farmers, there's adoption of the new. So you'll find in this east of the Rift, the east of the Rift, there will be more increasing productivity. Where a lot of new, whether it's proper pruning, proper top working on rejuvenation of the bushes that are there. But there's also growing new. So they're looking at it both increasing production and also increasing productivity. Those are the different approaches that the Kenyan people, and actually it's the whole Kenyan people, both the smallholder farmers and the government, that is a lot of engagement and investment and commitment from the farmers that produce coffee.
Oh, that's amazing. So, what I'm hearing is that there are lots of ways in which you can build resilience through all these practices you just mentioned, and overcoming the fact that sometimes you have major droughts in East Africa, you don't have as much water as you need. And then other times you get maybe too much water, although that doesn't happen as often. And how do you manage that? You have to build local resources, you have to make investments, government's interested in that. But it also takes the private sector to be involved in that, right? If you want to transform and you want to keep something really wonderful in the global markets, like we have to invest in that, right? We have to pay the right prices. And I think part of what you're saying for US roasters is that Kenyan coffee is very special.
Yeah,
Not all people really understand that. They don't understand that there might be even a difference between buying from one side of Kenya, from the other side of Kenya. You've named the Rift Valley actually kind of splits regions. And of course, we're cultivating in over 30 counties, which is the majority of Kenya. But you can tell that there's different resilience tactics that are needed on both sides, and addressing that
yeah.
uniquely to
Thank you.
each group is really helpful.
Yes,
Bye, Grandy.
yes, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
So it's nuanced. It's
Yes,
important that someone takes a data driven approach, right? Like looking at
yeah,
climate data, what is the best practice for each location based on their climate
yes,
history and what tools are available and what's comfortable for farmers. Like what do they want to actually do? But I
yeah,
love that you keep coming back to quality, because Kenya has rich soils, Kenya has really wonderful varieties, and the climate is it's quite nice for coffee, although it's not always nice and you have to adapt to it.
yeah.
So
Mm,
maintaining quality being a priority is important, and we can always sort of count on Kenya for really high scoring coffees like 88s and over. And a
yeah,
lot of roasters are using Kenyan coffee to improve their blends, right? Like they'll put
yeah.
a small percentage of
Yes,
Kenyan to make it nicer. But honestly, as a single
yes,
origin, it's definitely worth it being able to get your hands on that. So I think that's really wonderful. And I think one thing that's been really interesting is sort of the liberalization or the ability to allow coffee farmers, which are organized in cooperatives in Kenya, which is really awesome and very unique, to Kenya, but well organized. They don't necessarily have a formal or a long term history of selling to international markets. And I know I've met
Yeah.
you in the coffee expo that we've held in the US, year over year. What is happening in Kenya that's going to allow cooperatives to now be able to sell internationally? And what sort of tools do they need other than
Mhm.
training? But like, what sort of public tools would be helpful for them in terms of promoting themselves?
Yes, I think that's an interesting question. Yeah, it's true. The Kenyan coffee is produced like 80% by smallholder farmers who are organized into about 560 cooperatives and about 1,200 smaller cooperatives, because then they are smaller around the washing stations, about 1,200 plus the wash stations. What happens is that, like there have been a lot of legal and regulatory reforms allowing smallholder farmers. They can either from licensing, they be as what you call they can when they're growing, they are registered or licensed at grower marketers, and therefore from the farm, even directly they can actually be able to get into international market. That has been there what you call a second window, whereby smallholder farmers are able to now directly get a buyer from whatever part of the country interested in their coffee. Then they can have the arrangement of how that coffee can be organized and go to that market. I think there's also, I think last week or a couple of weeks ago, the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture announced that they are looking at and extending or rather rejuvenating the Nairobi Coffee Exchange in a manner that it will allow, because Kenya has been good extension in technology, and therefore that a change or rather improve the Nairobi Coffee Exchange, making it possible for a buyer from all over the world to actually place a bid, pay for it, and then get into the normal logistic and get their coffee. So is that because currently for the 80% of the coffee goes through the Nairobi Coffee Exchange, that basically for the buyers you have to be physically there. Now is it, can you expand that? Ashley from whatever part of the world she can say that coffee from Kibirigwi farmer or Iriaini factory, or that coffee from Kiawamururu is nice. I like it. It's calling 85. I needed to bid for it, and then you can arrange how you get. So there's that change. But most important, also there have been a lot of investment by the farmers themselves. Quite a number of cooperatives even have gone through most of these international sustainability certifications, whether there's quite a number of Rainforest Alliance certified. There are those who are also like various other certifications that have, fair trade and other certification that they have gone through, showing or demonstrating that farmers, even at a very, very small scale farmers, are able to get the market. Because the cooperative movement in Kenya has been, the most successful in terms of aggregation. We have a very good success in tea using the Kenya Tea Development Authority. Coffee now, again, around the cooperatives, where now cooperatives, you'll be able to, put their coffee together and get, like, I think today, or is it today, like one cooperative is called Uthaya Cooperative. It's a huge cooperative. You have 20,000 farmers. And I mean, it's like I hear like you'll be paying over 160, nearly 150 shillings per kilo of cherry. So it's like maybe a dollar and a half. And that has not been. So if you find out that, because clearly when farmers receive better prices, they are able to invest in that. So, and also most important, one other thing that has been very transformational is how the coffee money goes down to the farmers. Is when you buy coffee from the Nairobi Coffee Exchange, within 5 days the buyer has to pay through what you call a direct settlement system, the DSS. This account enables all the claims for the farmers to be settled through that. That provides two levels of transparency. Number one, it provides an opportunity for scrutiny of these debts, so that you are not going to claim to farmers that they are able to look at it and say, was this debt passed by the farmers? Did the farmer, the cooperative, approve that? And then third is also look at it. Did the person providing this credit, is it a person that is already licensed by the Central Bank of Kenya to provide that credit, so that it will provide that level of transparency? And what that has done is that it has opened the coffee sector for investment. Before, it was very difficult for any financiers, whether fintechs or the normal banks, to finance the coffee sector because it was very close in terms of the milling, the marketers and the buyers. So quite a bit, quite vertically integrated, almost closing out any other player. But with the new reform through the DSS now, any financier, whether fintech or normal, or mainstream bank, can look at develop, and most of them are now developing various finance product. Whether is it is it an irrigation product? Is it now an input product? Is it a trade, a trade financing product? So there's now opportunity now, and quite a number of financing institutions in Kenya and internationally are actually taking that advantage to develop products that now can be put in the coffee sector, that which was not the case in a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Okay. That's so much information and it's really packed. And so I just want to unpack it. There has been a lack generally, I'd say, across sub-Saharan Africa, but we can just talk about Kenya, in the ability for farmers to make investments without super high costs,
Yeah,
high credit costs, or just the cost of not being able to do anything but use your savings, which often
yeah,
you have very little of. And so
yeah,
when any bank wants to, offer you credit, there's all this risk that they assess on you. And now we have so much more data. We have all these like really strong supply chains. But
yeah,
how do you get to a smallholder farmer when they're grouped together with a cooperative? It's also a very tricky thing to do. So now the DSS, or the settlement system that goes with the auctioning of coffee, allows more financing, which can help make some of these investments. We're also hearing from you that like certifications are really helpful for getting farmers into international markets, because it tells a story about what those farmers are doing, tells
mm,
a story about their individual sustainability, or like as a cooperative, their sustainability approach. And then it tells you a story about the quality of your coffee sometimes, which is also great. But
yeah,
we know we have like rigorous scoring. Everything's scored in Kenya. It's graded in Kenya. Like the sampling room is full every week with offers. So there's a lot of robustness, and I'll probably break this down and put it in the notes. But it sounds like by leveraging a lot of the data that we have and putting it into central locations, and allow financing to come in, to allow certifiers to come in, but also allow cooperatives to then go on and promote the things that they're doing, and promote, hey, next year, because we made these investments, we might have more production or farmer retention or whatever it is. And then, what we're doing at Climate Smart Coffee is allowing cooperatives to tell their own story, just like you on this farm. Like, you're in a beautiful place. What are you
yeah,
doing all day? Like, how are you making, as a farmer, how are you able to tell your story? And it's like, well, this is our certification, and here's the quality that we sell at. And it's really hard to get that data as a roaster, and it's really only kept by a few small import
yeah,
export businesses, which is fine. Like, you need to use them for financing sometimes, you
yeah,
need to use them for logistics.
mm,
But I think that's opening up. That was very clear from the Kenya booth at the SCA Expo this year, that
mm,
we can start to piece these things apart, and like roasters can get much closer to the direct trade opportunities that they're looking for. And even if you're not doing that, keep investing in sustainability, because Kenyan quality coffee is very rare. It's very special. It's not a
mm,
commodity, and we need to value
yeah,
that by making these investments. So great. I know you have a bit of the rest of your day to attend to in a group that you're hosting here.
mm.
So any last words for coffee consumers or US roasters who, they're kind of interested in Kenya? They often go through third parties. Maybe they haven't even bought a Kenya. They think it's really expensive. Or just
Yeah.
anything on your mind that sort of promoting Kenyan coffee at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe a couple of things. One, if you are a roaster there, the moment you haven't really utilized Kenyan coffee, you're losing out like big time. You're losing out, man. You gotta do something about this. Number two, the Kenyan coffee when you buy, because it's hard, it's easily it's hard picked, hard selected. There's a lot of art into it. So it's like from the farm. So it's not only the coffee, but the livelihoods that you impact down there. Coffee is produced by about 700,000 households. If you multiply Kenya, average household is 3, you are talking about maybe 2.1 million people that will be able to impact. And, just by that coffee alone. And then thirdly, it also creates a lot of other multiplier businesses, input providers, employment in pruning, employment in harvesting. So there's a lot of the area that when you buy that Kenyan coffee, you not only get like the best coffee in the world of you that you are like your customers you die for, but also you will be able to actually impact millions of lives, in a way that is not, in a way that's not relief. It's not like it's not a handout, basically a hand up. If you want to really give the farmer the hand, but not a handout, buy the Kenyan coffee. Did trade with the Kenyan cooperative directly? Now it is possible. No, but there's nobody lie to you that you cannot trade with the Kenyan cooperative directly. If you want coffee from any Kenyan cooperative, you can get it right now. Even as we go through, I know quite a number of you require a lot of data. There's a significant investment even by the government through what we call KIAMIS, the Kenya Integrated Agricultural Management Implementation System, that have registered over 6.5 million farmers. And now, currently, it was data version 1. Now 2 is now going there and ensuring that you can be able to click to a certain factory and see which farmer is there, what is the variety of coffee they are producing, how old is that coffee, how are they, and then see the management practices. So if you're a roaster out there, whether you're in the US or whatever, if you're not dealing with Kenyan coffee, let me tell you, my friend, you are losing out like big time. You gotta wake up and do something, my friend.
Yeah, be
See
a
you there.
winner, buy some Kenyan coffee, really enjoy
Absolutely.
it, and
I
then
mean,
support a bunch of people
yes.
who are working incredibly hard to have sustainable coffee come to your morning brew. So thank you so much for your time. I'll let you go. There's so much more to
Yes.
talk about, but I think this is a wonderful interview. Thank you so much, Henry. Henry Kinyua. Okay.
Thank you, Andre. Thank you all. Bye for
Okay.
now.
Bye.